used to think that betrayal had a sound, a sharp crack, like glass shattering, like something breaking inside you at the exact moment truth enters. But it doesn't. It's silent. It's just knowing. It started with a message. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't even suspicious, not really. We'd been together for 8 years, long enough to stop questioning every late meeting, or every time he turned his phone over when it buzzed. You tell yourself that trust means not asking, that love means not needing to. But that morning, something in me reached out before my mind caught up. He'd left his phone on the counter while showering. The screen lit up, just once. A name I didn't recognize. Emma Design. It was the parentheses that made my stomach twist. Design. As if to preempt questions, to cover tracks before they're even visible. The message was simple. Did you sleep at all? I couldn't stop thinking about you. My heart didn't break right then. It just shifted. Like realizing the room you're standing in isn't yours anymore. I opened their chat. I didn't mean to, or maybe I did. Maybe part of me had been waiting for this permission all along. There were months of messages. Not explicit, but intimate. You always make me feel calmer. Wish I were next to you. Don't forget your scarf, it's cold today. Ordinary sentences, ordinary words, but threaded through with tenderness, the kind we'd stopped using years ago. And then weeks back, a message from her. When are you going to tell her? And his reply. Not yet. She'll notice something's off. That's when the silence arrived. Not from him, not from the phone, but from me. A ringing stillness that filled the kitchen, the entire apartment, my chest. He came out of the shower, towel around his waist, humming something off-key. He looked relaxed, free almost. I watched him for a second too long. He caught my eye in the reflection of the microwave door. Everything okay? He asked. And I said sure. Because the world hadn't ended yet. Because saying it out loud would make it real. He kissed the top of my head as he passed me. The way people do when they don't really see you. Then he left for work. I stood there, holding his phone, my own reflection trembling in the black glass of the screen. And I realized I'd just stepped into the other side of our life. The part that happens after trust is gone. The rest of the day blurred. My job, the calls, the endless spreadsheets, all of it mechanical. But under it, a slow ache pulsed, steady as a heartbeat. I told no one. Not my best friend, not my sister. I didn't want sympathy, or advice, or the inevitable question. Are you going to leave him? I didn't know. How do you leave someone who's still half yours? That night he came home late. I pretended to be asleep, though my body betrayed me. Every sound of his clothes rustling, every careful step toward the bed made my muscles tighten. He lay down next to me. I could smell her perfume on him. Faint, floral, unfamiliar. It wasn't proof, but it was enough. I stared into the darkness, listening to his breathing even out. And for the first time, I felt like there were 3 of us in that room. The next morning, I made coffee for both of us like I always did. 2 cups, one with sugar, one without. Routine. That's what holds you together when everything else starts to slip. He smiled when he saw me. You're up early. I nodded. Couldn't sleep. He sat at the table, scrolling through his phone, his thumb moving in small, nervous circles. I watched him the way you watch a stranger trying to act familiar. Every gesture rehearsed, every word weighed. Busy day? I asked. Yeah. Big presentation. Remember I told you? I hadn't forgotten. I'd just stopped caring. When he left, the apartment fell silent again. There was a time when that silence felt peaceful. Now it felt like proof. I opened the fridge, closed it again. I couldn't eat. I couldn't even sit down. So I went for a walk. The city was gray, the kind of gray that smells like rain even when it isn't raining. People hurried past me, holding coffees, talking on phones, living lives that hadn't just fallen apart. And I wondered, how many of them were like me, pretending not to know, pretending to be fine. By noon, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I wanted the truth, plain, unembellished, ugly if it had to be. So when he came home that night, I was ready. He looked tired, his tie loosened, his eyes hollow. Hey, he said softly. How was your day? Long. He nodded, put his bag down, loosened his shoes. Then I asked, how's Emma? He froze. Just for a second, but I saw it. The hesitation, the flicker of fear. Emma, he repeated, trying to sound casual. Yeah, Emma. The one who can't stop thinking about you. He didn't speak. The silence between us was a living thing. Heavy, breathing, watching. I saw the messages. I said finally. My voice was steady, but my heart wasn't. He ran a hand through his hair, exhaled. I was going to tell you. I laughed, a short, bitter sound. When? After the next meeting? Or after you forgot how to lie? It wasn't. Don't, I cut him off. Don't say it wasn't what I think. It's exactly what I think. He looked at me then, really looked, and for a second I saw something raw in his eyes. Shame maybe. Or relief. I didn't mean for it to happen, he whispered. No one ever does, I said. That's the problem. He stepped closer. It just felt easy with her. You and we've been so distant. I didn't realize how lonely I was until. I shook my head. Stop. Don't make this about loneliness. You don't cure loneliness by breaking someone else. Tears burned behind my eyes, but I wouldn't let them fall. I wanted to stay upright, composed, untouchable. He sank into the chair, his face in his hands. I'm sorry, he said, and it sounded too small for what he'd done. I stood there for a long time, staring at him. This man I'd loved for almost a decade, who'd shared my bed, my plans, my silence. And suddenly, he wasn't mine anymore. I went to the window. Outside, the city lights flickered in the glass like distant fires. Do you love her? I asked quietly. He hesitated. That was enough. Okay, I said. That's all I needed to know. I turned and walked to the bedroom. He didn't follow. Later, I heard him on the phone in the hallway, whispering. Too low to catch the words, but not the tone. Tender. Careful. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and felt something inside me start to detach, like a thread coming loose from a seam. By morning, I'd made a decision. Not to forgive. Not yet to leave. But to wait. Sometimes the worst punishment isn't walking away. It's letting the other person watch you disappear piece by piece. Days started blending together. Morning coffee. Silent dinners. The sound of his toothbrush. The door closing behind him. Every little habit turned into an echo of something that used to be warm. He stayed. We didn't talk about it again, not directly. It hung between us. Heavy, invisible, impossible to move. Sometimes I caught him watching me, as if he was waiting for me to break. I didn't. I worked, met deadlines, smiled at colleagues, even laughed when someone told a joke in the office kitchen. On the surface, everything looked intact. But I felt hollow, like someone had carved me out and left the shell standing. One evening, my best friend Lena called. She'd noticed the distance in my voice, the mechanical tone. You sound like a ghost, she said. I'm fine. Bullshit. What happened? I wanted to tell her. I wanted to cry and scream, and let someone else hold the weight for a while. But I didn't. Because once you say it out loud, it becomes a story. And I wasn't ready for our story to turn into something people whispered about. So I said, just tired. And she sighed, long in knowing. You always say that when you're dying inside. After the call, I sat in the dark, my phone glowing in my hand. I opened Instagram. His profile. Her profile. Photos of the office, the team, the after-hours drinks. And there she was, Emma, laughing, a glass of wine in her hand, leaning just a little too close toward him. I wondered if people in the background could tell. If anyone else had noticed the chemistry, the glances, the soft current running between them. Probably not. People don't see what they don't want to. 2 weeks passed. We functioned like roommates. Shared bills, shared space, but not each other. Sometimes I thought I could live like this. Quietly numb, untouched. But then I'd see him texting, smiling faintly at the screen, and the numbness cracked open, revealing something sharp underneath. I started writing again. Not anything serious. Just thoughts, fragments, sentences that came to me at night. The body remembers before the heart does. Trust dies slowly, but it never resurrects. I filled pages without realizing I was writing a diary of grief. One night, unable to sleep, I went out for a walk. The streets were wet from rain, the kind of cold that clings to your skin. I walked without direction, just following the hum of the city. I ended up near his office. The lights were still on. Through the glass I saw him, alone sitting at his desk, staring at the computer. For a second, I almost believed he looked sad. And then Emma appeared behind him, her hand on his shoulder. It wasn't dramatic. No kiss, no embrace. Just that small, intimate gesture of familiarity. But it was enough. I turned around and walked home. My chest felt tight, but not from heartbreak. It was something quieter, colder, like the last stage of frost before spring. When he came home that night, I was already in bed, pretending to sleep again. He paused by the door watching me, then whispered, "I'm sorry." As if the words could erase everything. I wanted to answer, "Me too." But silence seemed truer. That's when I knew, we were done. Not because of her, not even because of what he'd done. We were done because love had turned into endurance. I woke up one morning and realized I didn't hate him anymore. That scared me more than anything. Hate means you still care. Hate means there's still fire, still connection. But I felt nothing. Just still water. He was in the kitchen making coffee, humming the same tune he always hummed. The smell filled the apartment, familiar and distant all at once. "Morning," he said softly. "Morning." It was just a word, but it felt like the last one we'd share. I watched him move, how he reached for the sugar, how he leaned against the counter. And I couldn't remember the last time I'd wanted to touch him. Not out of anger. Not out of longing. Just touch, simple and human. That's when I knew I was done pretending. I took a day off work. Told my boss I wasn't feeling well, which was true in a way. I spent the morning sorting through drawers, pulling out old receipts, photographs, letters. It's strange how objects hold time. A movie ticket from 2018. A birthday card he'd written, "You're my home." I stared at that line for a long time before folding it and placing it back in the box. I packed a suitcase. Not much. A few clothes, my notebook, my grandmother's ring, the book I was reading. I didn't know where I was going yet. Just that I couldn't stay. When he came home that evening, the suitcase was by the door. He froze. His hand tightened around the strap of his bag. "You're leaving?" I nodded. "For how long?" "I don't know." He stepped closer. "We can fix this. I'll stop seeing her. I'll do anything." I shook my head. "It's not about her anymore." He looked lost, like a child caught in a storm he didn't see coming. "Then what is it about?" "It's about me," I said. "I've spent months trying to understand what went wrong, what I did wrong. But maybe it's not about wrong or right. Maybe we just reached the end of who we were." His eyes filled with tears. It almost broke me, almost. Because I knew he was sorry. And I knew it didn't matter. Sometimes sorry comes too late. He tried to touch my hand, but I pulled away gently. "Please don't," I whispered. "If you touch me, I might stay. And I can't do that again." The silence that followed was heavy, but not cruel. Just final. I picked up my suitcase, opened the door, and stepped into the hallway. He called my name once. I didn't turn around. I checked into a small Airbnb across town. The room was simple. White walls, one window, a single lamp that buzzed faintly when turned on. That night, I sat by the window with a cup of tea and watched the city lights blink like distant constellations. It hurt, of course it did. But beneath the ache there was something else, relief. For the first time in months, I wasn't waiting for a message, a confession, an apology. I was just waiting for myself. I opened my notebook and wrote. Sometimes you have to leave to hear your own voice again. And for the first time, I believed it. It's been 3 months since I left. Sometimes it feels like a lifetime. Sometimes like a single, unfinished breath. The first weeks were strange. I kept expecting him to call, to show up, to ask me to come home. But he didn't. Maybe he understood that there was no home left to return to. I moved into a small apartment near the river. Nothing fancy, but it smelled like new paint and freedom. I bought mismatched furniture from a thrift shop. Filled the shelves with plants I wasn't sure how to care for. They're still alive. So am I. At first, everything reminded me of him. The smell of coffee in the morning. The way the sunlight hit the window at 7 a.m. But slowly, the world started to rearrange itself around me. I took long walks. I started going to a pottery class on Thursdays. My hands learned how to shape something fragile into something strong. There was something deeply healing in that, watching a lump of clay become a bowl, a cup, a vessel for holding life again. One evening, Lena came over with wine and chips. She looked around the apartment and said, "You look lighter." I laughed. "I think I am." We talked for hours, about work, books, the stupid things people say when they mean well. She asked if I missed him. I thought about it. "Sometimes," I said. "But not the way I used to. I think I miss who I was with him more than I miss him." She nodded. "That's the hardest part. Learning to love the version of you that survived." After she left, I sat on the balcony, legs tucked under a blanket, the city breathing below. I thought about all the nights I'd spent waiting for his messages, all the times I'd measured my worth by his attention. And then I realized, I don't wait anymore. One morning, an email came. From him. No subject line, just a few words. "I hope you're okay." I stared at it for a long time. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I typed back, "I am. I hope you are too." Then I deleted the draft. Some things don't need to be sent. Instead, I went for a walk by the river. The air smelled like rain and beginnings. Couples passed me, holding hands, laughing. And for the first time, I didn't feel envy, just quiet acceptance. There will be love again. I know that now. But it won't look like before. It won't be built on fear or silence. Next time, I'll choose someone who listens. Next time, I'll choose myself too. That night before bed, I opened my notebook, the same one I'd filled with grief, and wrote, "Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without bleeding." I closed it, placed it on the nightstand, and turned off the light. The darkness didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt like rest.